Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Roads? Well, we're going, we don't need roads.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
No, I am your father.
You're listening to After the Ending, the only film podcast where we tell you what happens after the ending of your favorite films. And now, here are your hosts, Mike Spring and Phil Edwards. Hello, and welcome to another episode of After the Ending, the podcast where we take your favorite films and we tell you what happens after they end. I'm Mike Spring, one of your hosts, and with me is...
Phil Edwards.
Hello, Phil. How are we doing tonight?
I'm fine. It's all fine and dandy over here in the UK.
Very good.
Are you good?
I cannot complain at the moment.
Excellent.
We'll see what happens when we get through these movies, but for right now, I'm good to go.
It could all end in tears.
That's right. Well, listen, I figure if we made it through the Big Lebowski with our friendship intact,
yeah,
I don't think anything we're going to talk about tonight is going to tear it apart. So.
I still can't believe you killed them all.
Well, technically, the dude was only in a coma for the rest of his life. I didn't actually get around to killing him, but yeah, you know, it felt very good. It felt very satisfying for me. So. All right, so Phil, what are we talking about tonight?
Tonight we will be talking about Steven Spielberg's 1971 film Duel, which was made for TV and then got a theatrical release. And then we'll be moving on to the original Point Break starring Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze and Laurie Petty. And it's very good.
Yes, it is.
They're both very good, yeah.
They are, actually, yes. But I will say, I should probably clarify, I'm going to say that Point Break is one of my favorite movies. And then as this podcast goes on, you're going to hear that phrase a lot. Yeah. And it's just because I have a lot of favorite movies.
Same way, I have lots of favorite ones.
Right, and in different genres and different styles. Casablanca is my favorite movie of all time, but...
It's a brilliant movie.
I don't compare Point Break and Casablanca. You know what I mean? Like, that's not movies I put up against each other. So
you've got to take each film for its own things, for its own merits.
Exactly. So
and whatever mood you're in as well. Often,
absolutely,
that's the big deciding factor.
Yeah, without a doubt. So yes, Point Break is one of my favorites, but we'll get into that a little later. Why don't we start things off with Duel?
Right. Okay. It was an ABC movie of the week. It was 74 minutes long. It took 13 days to shoot. Successful. It got a theatrical release. And they spent a couple more days shooting additional footage. I just thought I'd throw that in because I found it quite interesting. Okay, Duel stars Dennis Weaver, who was a star of the TV show McQuaid and also featured in Touch of Evil. He plays a character called David Mann, that's M-A-N-N, the common man as it were, a salesman on a business trip. He drives a Plymouth Valiant and he's driving through the California desert when he overtakes a dirty, grimy truck, which is belching smoke out into the air. It's not got a very good carbon footprint. And thus begins a game of cat and mouse between the two. The truck keeps trying to kill David Mann whenever it can, but it always acts normally when other people are around. For example, there's a school bus which has got needs push starting, and the truck comes along, and David Mann's saying, "Get out of here, get out of here." Oh, by the way, there's spoiler warnings for people just tuning in.
Right.
Get out of here, get out of here. But the truck ends up helping the bus driver. But it keeps on chipping away at David's sanity, keeps pushing him a little bit further, and it ends up with a big chase up a mountain as David's car is reaching the end of its life because it's got a faulty radiator hose, which he didn't get replaced at the start. Hindsight's a bitch. They end up at the top of the mountain. David sticks his briefcase on the accelerator, races towards the tanker, but he jumps out at the last minute before it collides. The tanker hits the car, bursts into flame, the smoke blocks the trucker's view. And the truck goes off the cliff in super slow motion with a dinosaur roar, which Spielberg also used at the end of Jaws. Mm-hmm. And we just end with David Mann sitting in the desert, laughing with relief and hysteria, and he sits there exhausted, and the film ends.
Very nice.
Oh, and we never really get to see the truck driver. It's always just his arm. That's pretty much all we see, and it basically makes you feel that the truck itself is the evil thing trying to destroy this man's life.
Yeah, Spielberg did a great job. It's obviously sort of a filmmaking style he would carry into Jaws, which really propelled him into the icon that he is. But Duel was sort of like a good practice run for Jaws, and
it certainly was. Well, because I was reading as well. He was saying he used the roar at the end, that dinosaur sounding roar at the end of Jaws as well, as well as this one, because he said both films dealt with how did he put it? Leviathans targeting the everyman, which I thought was quite good.
Absolutely, yeah. So definitely a strength for Spielberg.
But and one other thing as well, which I quite liked, it is the truck. You see, it has a number of different number plates, and Spielberg apparently did that because he wanted to give the impression it could be a serial killer driving the truck, going from state to state, which I hadn't realised at the time. I don't, but. It's probably one of those things which works on your subconscious as you're watching it.
Right, absolutely. I didn't catch that.
Thought that was a nice little touch.
Very cool.
Okay, Mike, so what did you have then for the day after the events of the film?
Okay, so, well, I was tempted to say that he gets lost in the desert and, turns into a skeleton and that's the end, but that would make it a little bit short of an episode.
Okay, show's over, let's go.
Right. So here's where I went with that. So I think that, man gets a ride back into town and he finally gets the police involved, local police.
Yeah.
They investigate the whole scenario. But they're wary of his claims because it turns out that the driver was a well-known trucker in the area and kind of a fixture on the roads. And everyone knew him. He'd wave to everybody. Everyone in the diner knew him. So the police actually kind of suspect Mann of maybe killing this truck driver, but they can't prove anything. So eventually they let him go. But it puts a real sour taste in David Mann's mouth regarding the whole affair.
Of course, yeah.
And that's it for now. Then we'll move in. Things are going to progress from there.
Okay, so, well, I had it. He ended up. David Mann's just there in the desert, top of a mountain. He ends up falling asleep. Has terrible nightmares. He's getting chased by some huge thing in the darkness. He wakes and then begins walking back to civilization. It's just it's going to be a few hours to get to the nearest truck stop. He gets there, calls his wife, and breaks down in tears. He can't cope because what he's gone through has just destroyed him. Goes to call the police, but he doesn't make the call. He keeps second guessing himself. He's basically just still at this diner. He just sits in the corner just drinking coffee, doesn't know what to do. He's just totally, his head's wrecked.
Sure.
So that's what I had. So he stays there probably for a day, maybe just wandering around the diner or wherever, the truck stop, whatever it is, before deciding what to do next.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people would do probably after being in that kind of situation.
Yeah, you'd be just trying to process the whole thing, right? Because it's just crazy, wouldn't it? Somebody's been trying to kill you, and you've basically, despite them, they're the ones who drove over you. You contributed to their death as well. So David Mann was an upstanding person, from what we could gather.
Right.
So it's going to weigh heavy on him.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what did you have for the immediate aftermath?
So the police let Mann go, and he returns to home and to work, but he finds himself increasingly haunted by the experience. The entire chase, made worse by the police treating him like he was the suspect. It makes him angry.
Yeah.
And it's an anger that he can't really cope with. So he starts to retreat further and further into himself. He alienates his wife and his friends and his work, and he starts to just become like this sort of really, very withdrawn person, very angry, and everyone sort of basically not deserts him because it's sort of deserving, but basically he loses his wife, he loses his friends, he loses his job, and and a couple of years later, he's basically shell-shocked, divorced, and out of work, and on his way to becoming homeless.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah, not a happy path.
Yeah, because you can see in the film as well, through the little conversations he has, he's got an anger within him anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I could see, that would just end up gnawing away at him and building.
Right.
Mine's pretty similar. He eventually gets home. He tries to tell his wife what happened, but only tells her bits and pieces. And he doesn't report to the police or insurance. He's willing to just have the car be a write-off and just forget about the whole thing. He thinks that's the best way to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that doesn't work, though. The police find the wreckage eventually. I don't know how long it would take. And they chase David Mann down and contact him for more information. Starts telling him what happened. It's just garbled, and they say, we need to speak to you more. And that's the final thing. Just his mental state's already been precarious, and that's what caused it to snap. He becomes more and more unhinged, and he leaves home, and his wife doesn't see him. Probably ever again, to be honest, but
right.
That's it. He goes off there, and that's what I've got for the immediate aftermath.
All right. I have a feeling that there's a possibility we could be heading in the same direction for our long term.
We could very well. Oh, just for listeners who aren't aware, neither Mike or myself know what the other ones come up with for any of the films.
That's right. We do not talk beforehand about the films, so sometimes we vary wildly, and other times we end up at the same place. But it's all accidental, or as I like to think of it, just great minds thinking alike. So
that's it, exactly.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if we're really in the same place or not.
Okay, so where are we up to now? So we're coming up to the long term. Oh, and before I forget, that was the other thing I meant to mention. This was based on a short story by Richard Matheson.
Oh yes, that is definitely worth mentioning.
Who did I Am Legend? So it's worth mentioning that.
Yep.
And also because Matheson said something similar happened to him.
Right.
well, with a truck driver in the desert. Obviously, not all of it, but that's what inspired him to write the book.
Listen, I had a little spar with a truck driver once when I was young, and it's pretty dicey. He didn't want to let me pass, and I wanted to get past him, and I passed him, and then he sort of started tailgating me, and it only lasted a couple minutes, but when you're in a little car and they're in a big truck, scary. It sure is, especially on the big American roads, and there's just no other cars there, and it's just you and him. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so long term, what have you got?
So long term, David is unable to find work, and eventually he ends up taking a job driving trucks. Because it's all he can get, and he can be solitary and withdrawn and angry, and it doesn't matter as long as he gets his gear where it needs to go. The irony of it is lost on him, though, because he's too far gone into his own world to really have any sort of introspection by this point.
Yeah.
He hits the road. He becomes a hardened trucker. He never stays in one place for very long. He never puts down any roots. He's basically homeless. He mostly lives out of his truck, the occasional rest stop.
Yeah.
Once in a great while, he'll stop at one of these trucking stops overnight, but mostly he just sleeps in the cab of his truck. As he's getting on in years, he's become pretty crusty and withdrawn and kind of raggedy, and he takes on the trucker handle of Rusty Nail.
Rusty Nail.
Because he feels like a rusty nail.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So after a few years, he's out driving one day when he gets a message on a CB radio, and it's from a young, attractive-sounding girl named Candy Kane. And she's flirting with him, and he starts to feel a little bit human again. And then it's revealed that it's just a hoax, and it pushes Rusty Nail over the edge.
No.
And he's about to turn these kids' joyride into a duel.
Oh, linking two movies, very good.
Thank you. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, because it wasn't a big hit, Joyride was a movie from, I want to say, the early 2000s with the late Paul Walker, Steve Zahn, and Lily Sobieski. And it's basically, Duel for the Scream audience, if you will.
Hold on. Yeah, just having a quick look about Joyride, 2001.
Hey, look at that.
Got some more connections with Spielberg, though.
Oh, yeah?
Because and also with our last episode, or whenever we did Super 8, because J.J. Abrams produced and wrote the script.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Interesting. No, it's very interesting.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah,
I like those. I remember I saw Joyride long before I saw Duel, sadly, but I like Duel better, obviously. But Joyride is kind of one of those movies that it's not really all that great, but I kind of enjoy it because I always sort of enjoy these chase movies, regardless of what the format of it is. So.
Oh well, often the perfect for these kind of films. They might not be the greatest movie in the world, but they fill a couple of hours.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'll try and get hold of that to watch, though, because I do like Steve Zahn, Paul Walker, and Lily Sobieski.
Yeah, Sobieski.
No,
yeah.
Sobieski. Sorry. Yeah.
That's all right. It's a fun enough film to make it worth watching, and the guy who does the voice of Rusty Nail is really creepy. So it's worth it kind of just for that,
Oh, that's what you want. Well, we know now it's David Mann doing the voice. So.
Well, right, exactly. All right, so what do you have for your long term, Phil?
My long term, David's marriage falls apart. He loses his job, and he heads off. He's already left home. He drives around the same area of desert where the incident took place. He's just trying to find a reason, an explanation for what happened and why it happened, but he never finds it. And his fragile mental state just gets worse and worse. He's hitchhiking wherever he can. He's getting menial jobs, working, dishwasher, things like that, just trying to get a bit of money. He eventually gets enough money to get himself his own car, and he's just driving from place to place in the desert. But he sometimes forgets the truck's gone and starts spending time hunting for this truck, which is out there, which he thinks is still trying to hunt him down. And he tells people whenever he can, anybody who'll listen, he tells them about this truck he's trying to find, and you got to be careful. And he eventually becomes almost like an urban myth. This man trying to find, almost like Ahab trying to find the white whale.
Right.
That's the kind of thing I see.
I like that.
That's what happens to him. Yeah, he goes off the deep end and is trying to find something he will never be able to find.
Right. I like that. I like that he becomes like an urban myth. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's neat.
It's like you'd have teenagers who'd be traveling across the desert. They say, "Did you ever come across that guy? This dude, he's crazy."
Right.
Just that kind of thing.
Right.
But I also had, just as another aside, just tiny thing, because it's a Spielberg film. I had David Mann. All this happens. He gets himself back together, reinvents himself, joins the police, remarries, gets a job as a sheriff, and then moves to Amity Island. Boom.
Yep, I can see that.
But I think I like my urban myth one.
I think it's got a little more weight to it. But it's always fun to. Well, as you know, I'm a big fan of tying our movies to other movies, so clearly, it's never going to be lost on me.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right, great.
There we go.
So before we move on to Point Break, anything else you want to talk about or say about Duel?
Just the last thing I thought interesting, because they filmed a couple of days extra scenes, just so it become long enough to be a theatrical release in Europe and Australia. They also, as well as the extra scenes, they added a bit of swearing in to move it away from it being a TV movie.
Right. That's
and one other thing, and Weaver also references the fact he was in touch of evil by saying another think coming. That's think with a K, which his character in Touch of Evil also said.
Right.
So little throwback to that.
Yeah, a lot of neat little tie-ins there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that's our take on Duel. If you haven't seen it, we definitely recommend it, even though you know how it ends. It's still worth watching.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next, Phil? We're taking on Point Break, right?
Yes, we are.
All right. So
Johnny Utah.
Johnny Utah. Johnny Utah is probably my single favorite character name in any movie in the history.
It is a great name, isn't it?
Yeah, and a lot of times when I was younger, if we had to put in like a name at a restaurant or something like that, like for a wait and ask for my name, I would give them Johnny Utah as the name. It's like sort of my, like, if I was a celebrity and I needed a fake name at a hotel, Johnny Utah would be
Johnny
my,
Utah.
would be my fake
It worked
name.
for everything.
Yeah.
Apparently, that was going to be the name of the film.
Oh, really?
It was going to be called Johnny Utah.
Oh, there you go. Well, I think Point Break is probably a little more.
Yeah, and it ties in with the whole surfing
Right,
thing.
exactly.
A bit better than Johnny Utah.
But yeah, so I do love that character name. So, all right, so Point Break. What's funny? I thought this would be like a 2-sentence summary, and it turns out it's not. There's a little...
Yeah, there's actually a lot goes on in the film.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I'd forgotten quite a bit about it, but yeah.
I was kind of thinking like, surfers, bank robbers, guns, the end. But there's a little more to it than that, and I don't even cover everything. So
it's also got one of the best chase scenes.
Yes.
Of any film, that chase scene where on foot, where Utah's chasing down Bodhi.
Yeah.
I just think that's brilliant. That one behind all the houses,
without a doubt.
I love that scene.
All right, so here we go. So Johnny Utah is a rookie FBI agent. He's assigned to investigate a series of bank robberies being perpetrated by the ex-presidents, a group of bank robbers wearing big rubber masks of former presidents of the United States.
I love the name of that, the ex-presidents.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that's a great name for a gang.
It's a great concept all around, for sure. Utah's boss, Agent Angelo Pappas, suspects a group of surfers, so he assigns Johnny to infiltrate them undercover. Johnny meets Bodhi, who is played by Patrick Swayze. He's a sort of philosophical surfer and leader of the crew, and eventually he gets accepted when he learns to surf and when Bodhi recognizes him as a former football star, a college football star. Utah begins to suspect that Bodhi is the guilty party, and he follows the gang and eventually comes across them mid-robbery. They get into the aforementioned foot chase with Bodhi, but he's stopped when his old football knee injury flares up and basically hobbles him mid-chase. The two lock eyes, even though Bodhi's wearing a mask. So the question is, does Bodhi know? Is it Bodhi? We don't know. Although we kind of know. But Bodhi escapes. Johnny empties his gun into the sky in a classic scene. But the next day, Bodhi talks Johnny into going skydiving with them. And after the jump, he reveals that he knows who Johnny is and that he's holding Johnny's girlfriend hostage to force Johnny into participating in their big last kind of hurrah robbery. At the robbery, Bodhi breaks protocol and goes into the vault, whereas before this they'd only ever taken cash from the drawers, so they wouldn't take too long. And the result is a shootout where one of his men and a security guard get killed. He knocks out Johnny and escapes, but Johnny tracks him to the airport. And in the ensuing shootout, Pappas and Bodhi's remaining men are basically killed. Johnny's forced onto the plane, and Bodhi skydives out, leaving Johnny with no parachute. Johnny jumps out of the plane after him. They grapple, they land on the ground, and Johnny's knee gives out again, leaving Bodhi to escape into the ether.
That damn knee.
Yes, exactly. It is problematic.
Yeah.
And then 9 months later, for the coda of the film, Johnny tracks down Bodhi in Australia, where there is what Bodhi calls a 50-year storm. Basically, just gigantic waves like, you've just never seen before. They have a fight. Johnny apprehends him, but Bodhi convinces him to let him catch this one last wave. And Johnny kind of realizes if he goes out into the surf, he's not coming back. So he lets him go. He walks away. He throws his FBI badge into the sand, and cue end credits.
What got me about the film is so many people die in it. I'd forgotten how many people die.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a higher of a body count than you remember.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's Point Break. It's a great film. Also directed by Catherine Bigelow, who did go on to win the Oscar for Best Directing for The Hurt Locker. And
that was a good film.
Yeah, I like Point Break better though. But
yeah, definitely. Point Break's a lot more enjoyable.
Yes, it is. Hurt Locker is definitely a little more work to get through. So Phil, what do you have for your day after?
Okay, I've got it Bodhi heads into the 50-year storm to ride the ultimate wave, but apparently he dies after riding the wave of his life, because anybody going out to that probably going to die. It was a big wave.
Mm-hmm.
Utah spends the next day or two hanging around to make sure Bodhi doesn't turn up. Either he wants to find his corpse or find him alive, take him in. And he's also just trying to decide what the hell he's going to do with his life. He's quit the FBI. Well, he's thrown his badge down anyway.
Right.
But he's just going to be just walking, I think, around the coast, taking in the immensity of nature around him, and just parts of him hoping that Bodhi does turn up.
Right.
Because they always had that connection, that bro connection.
Yeah, which is part of what makes the film so great. You know, it's that the undercover cop who gets kind of, you know, seduced by the person that they're surveilling. You know, that's it's a classic story, and it's, you know, it's a powerful one, I think. Yeah,
definitely. But it's not the most exciting day after, but it's that's what I see happening. Utah is looking for something he's never going to find. A lot like Duel, yeah.
Exactly. Well, you and I are definitely on the same page. I think that the next day, Johnny basically gets good and drunk. You know, he spent 9 months chasing Bodhi, and now that he found him, he doesn't really know what to do with himself anymore. You know, he clearly stayed in the FBI solely to catch Bodhi.
Yeah.
And now Johnny feels adrift, no pun intended. When he recovers from his bender, he basically hits the surf the next day to kind of clear his head. You know, and even though the 50-year storm has passed, there's still some pretty gigantic waves. So basically, Johnny spends the next day, you know, out on the surf, catching giant waves, you know, clearing his head and trying to figure out what to do with the rest of his life. All right, how about your immediate aftermath?
Okay, I've got Utah. Johnny Utah, no longer part of the FBI. He now surfs to forget.
That's a good band name, by the way. Surfs to Forget.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Yeah,
I like
Surfs
that.
to Forget.
Yeah, a little punk band, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
He basically, because he's lost his partner in the FBI, he's lost Bodhi and Laurie Petty's character. They've all these people he had really good connections with are no longer part of his life. He's basically travelling around until his money runs out. He's travelling around the world, going from, you know, chasing the wave. He ends up in California, and he hooks back up with Tyler, who was Laurie Petty's character. He bumps into her. She's still angry with him, really, really angry with him. But he ends up talking around, and they talk about Bodhi and the surf, and he makes some kind of peace. They're never going to get back together or anything, but he's got a little bit of connection, and it sort of centres him a bit more with where he is.
Very good.
And that's what I've got for that.
All righty. Well, so what I came up with is that Johnny spends some time in Australia surfing and clearing his head, basically. He goes on an extended leave of absence from the FBI. Basically, he's at odds with himself. You know, on the one hand, he feels a strong sense of duty. You know, he was a good FBI agent, even though he was young, and, you know, he wants to do the right thing. On the other hand, you know, he's disappointed in himself that he got seduced by Bodhi. Not literally, but, you know, personality-wise, into his cult of
lifestyle,
personality, right? And he does love the surfing lifestyle as well. So he's definitely up in the air about things. So, but one day when he's out surfing, it's been about 6 months or so. He's out surfing, gets into a bad surfing accident. He gets caught by a wave. He gets rolled, hits his head, gets knocked unconscious.
Whoa!
He's saved by a nearby lifeguard, but he wakes up in the hospital and basically. It sort of is the clarity that he needs, and he decides that he knows what he's going to do with the rest of his life, and I'll share that with you in our next segment.
Okie doke.
So, long term, what do you got?
Long term, I've got Johnny Utah, still in California. He ends up getting involved in the movie business because that's one of the main things about being that side of America. He becomes almost like a stuntman and consultant because he's an ex-FBI guy who can surf. So there's going to be loads of Hollywood bigwigs who just want to get to know him, tell him the stories. They feel like they're part of someone. He's like an in with. He's got connections still with the FBI. He'd just be good for certain kind of films. Knows how to use guns. Can do all that kind of stuff. So he starts off mainly as a consultant, ends up getting into stunt work, and eventually he just keeps on moving in that. He becomes quite successful and starts doing stunt work for Keanu Reeves. And because people say they have a certain similarity.
I can see it.
And
I can see it. Yeah.
Sometimes it's in some of the way he looks. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but there is definitely something there. Meanwhile, though, in another part of the world, reports of a new spate of bank robberies with a similar MO to the ex-president's begins coming in. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Maybe Bodhi's still alive.
Very interesting. Interesting. All right. Well, we definitely differ a little on this, but we do clearly think alike. So interesting. We'll see what happens here. So
let's see.
So after his accident, Johnny comes back to the U.S. and decides to return to law enforcement. And basically what he does is he creates a task force within the FBI where he trains young agents to go undercover and teaches them how to avoid getting too close to the suspects.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's
like
something that he feels very passionately about. He continues to surf, and about 10, 20 years later, he gets a wind of a series of crimes in Florida that sound disturbingly like Bodie and his gang. Sounds like the ex-presidents. But he realizes he's too old to infiltrate any gang of surfers now, so he recruits one of his young agents, who I'm going to say is played by Ty Sheridan, because, we were talking about him last week, and why not? Yeah, he's excellent. Yeah. And he could potentially be named Billy Montana. That's just a thought I'm throwing out there. Billy Montana. But he's in the program that Reeves is spearheading, and he's his most promising recruit. And they head to Florida to apprehend the suspects and to infiltrate their gang. And while they're flying to Florida, Johnny realizes that he is now the agent Pappas to young Billy Montana's Agent Utah.
Yeah.
And as he finally remembers his commanding officer, he realizes that he's finally found his true calling.
Excellent. Oh, no, I like that.
There we go. So both of us had the potential return of Bodie.
Yeah.
But didn't actually decide whether he did come back or not, which I like. A little ambiguity there,
Yeah, because you're not sure.
Right.
Could be the legend of Bodie.
Right. I did think about actually going with maybe it was his son, like Bodie's son, like he had a son we didn't know about, and he knew about.
Yeah, he could well have a couple of kids, couldn't he?
Right. But then I was like, well, then my ending's just going to go on for 20 minutes, so we'll just cut it a little shorter than that.
But we didn't even mention that his Pappas was Gary Busey.
That's right. That's right.
Before he went totally method.
Yeah, he was great in that movie. It's a shame that he kind of turned into a nut job.
Yeah, really good. He was great in. He was what was he? Lethal Weapon as well, wasn't he? He was the bad guy in that.
Yes, he was.
Or the head.
Yep.
The head henchman.
Yep.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun back in the day, but now he's a little crazy, we'll say.
Yeah, but he does. It's worth it for some of the internet videos.
Right. Yeah, he does do some fun stuff with that. So
what I found interesting about this, though, originally before Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze were involved, they were looking at Matthew Broderick, Johnny Depp, Val Kilmer, or Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, that's a pretty. What's funny is I have to say, out of those four actors, I think the only one who probably would have been able to pull it off besides Keanu Reeves would actually be Charlie Sheen.
Yeah,
because Depp could probably have done it because he's a great actor, but clearly he would have hated it. Like, that's not the kind of movie he wanted to make.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And Charlie Sheen, we forget now that he was once a good actor, but he was.
That's very true. Yeah,
Platoon,
of course,
and Young Guns, some of that stuff where he was still a serious actor. So
and that his cameo in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, ranks up there with best.
That's a classic.
Criminal in the police scene.
Absolutely. But yeah, I can't see, like, Matthew Broderick would have been just not right at all. But I think, I don't think the movie would have been what it was without Keanu Reeves in there. He's fantastic in this movie, and I do love Keanu Reeves. I know he's got a very Keanu-y style of acting, but I do enjoy him anyway.
Yeah, if he gets the right role, he's brilliant, because all the way from Bill and Ted, that works so well, up to now John Wick, which John Wick was just a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
With action films. They're just really good.
Yeah, he definitely needs the right role for sure. But when you get him in the right role, he's a lot of fun to watch. He does make some great movies. So he makes some terrible ones too, but...
Oh, yeah. But most of them do.
Yeah, that's true. Except for Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, yeah.
He's the exception. But, boy, I sounded a little bit like I was in love with him just then, didn't I? Like, except for Leo. But that's not really how I meant it. I just meant that, he really makes good choices. But...
I think we all have a little man crush on Leo.
Yeah, maybe. I have a lot of man crushes. He's not typically on my list, though, but there's definitely some other guys that show up pretty regularly.
Such a good actor, though.
Yeah, he is, without a doubt.
Okay, another couple of little facts about the film. Keanu Reeves had never surfed before the film.
Wow.
Which sort of worked for this character.
Yeah.
And Patrick Swayze ended up doing 55 parachute jumps during filming.
Really?
Yeah, which I thought was pretty amazing.
That's a lot. Well, they could just not get the shot right? Like, what?
I also think he just really liked it, from what I can gather. Yeah,
he's like, hey, I think we need another take on that, guys.
He's got one more time, yeah. And also, during some of the surfing scenes, Patrick Swayze refused a stunt double. He refused a stunt double because he didn't have one for the fight scenes or car chases. But he ended up cracking a few ribs while he was doing some of the surfing scenes.
Ouch.
Yeah, that must have made filming difficult.
The one time I tried surfing, I ended up cracking a rib, I can relate to that, and it's very painful. So,
well, I've tried surfing, and I could stand up for about 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's probably about a second and a half longer than I could. So, so good on you there.
Yeah, I'd love to do it properly though. So get that Because I like it in Point Break when they're there. We've got to get out there, and it's all this Zen thing about being out on the ocean,
right,
and surfing on the perfect wave. I'd love to have a go just to see if I could to try and understand that kind of feeling they have.
Oh, without a doubt. It's funny too because I mean I am definitely a sucker for any kind of surfing movie. I mean, whether it's a documentary about surfing or any movie that has surfing in it, I will watch it because I'm sort of like this odd surfing fanatic who's never been able to surf. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Some of them, it's like a Big Wednesday.
Yeah,
a film. Yeah. That's a brilliant film. And
Endless Summer 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Who's in that one?
It's a sort of a documentary. It's like a travel log. It's Dick Brown's son, Bruce Brown's son, Dana Brown made it, and he follows these two surfers around the world. And they just sort of go out on these crazy adventures, but it's really fantastic. It's funny and charming, and there's some amazing surfing footage, and it's a film that is very near and dear to my heart.
Oh, brilliant! I've not seen that. I'll have to track that one down. I like the sound of that.
I highly recommend it, even if it's one of those movies that's so good that I've showed it to people who aren't interested in surfing at all, and they love it too because it's such a fun, adventurous film to watch. And there's other things that they do besides surfing. Like they get lost in Australia and the outback and all these other things, and it's a great film that I really love. So
I will definitely have a watch of that one
for sure. All right, great. So that is our take on Point Break. And as always, if you have conflicting opinions, what you think Duel or Point Break may have ended differently than we did, please feel free to drop us a line on our Facebook page, which you can find at facebook.com/aftertheendingpodcast. Also, I want to mention, this dawned on me today, Phil, know, this is our 5th episode.
5 already.
I know, isn't it crazy? Yeah. And as we're recording this, nobody's heard any of them yet.
That is the craziest thing.
Yeah, we want to get a little bit of a roll going before we put them out for the world to see, but
we're in like an audio limbo at the minute.
Yes, but by the time people hear this episode, we will be live. Well, I guess by the time people hear any of the episodes, we'll be live. But very soon after you hear this episode, you can also go on to iTunes and leave us a review, which is one of the best things you can do to help out a podcast, short of sending us money, which you're welcome to do also. But if you don't want to do that, go on iTunes, leave us a review. That would be a big help for us.
Yeah, a review will do, yeah. And if you're going to leave a bad review, just at least make it a funny one.
Yes, exactly.
Make it so we'll chuckle. And constructive.
Right.
But if it's going to be, if you like it or, we're all right, then just, give us a good review.
Right. We're all right with style.
All right with style. I like that.
There you go. All right. So, Phil, let's talk about some movie news. What's going on in the world of movies?
Okay. Well, over the past few days, if you've been anywhere near the internet, you've probably seen the second Captain America Civil War trailer, which introduces a certain web-slinging wall crawler to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's right. Spider-Man can now be on the same screen as Iron Man, Captain America, and all the rest. And it looked pretty good.
It looks fantastic. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Marvel movies, but this one, looks really, really top notch. What's interesting about the Spider-Man thing, though, was I showed the trailer to my, I saw the trailer on my Facebook feed about 1,000 times, and every single one of them was like Spider-Man. Like there was no surprise left that Spider-Man was going to be in it, even though I already knew because I follow the film news, but. So I said to my wife, I'm like, have you seen the trailer yet? Is it because her feed isn't quite the same as mine, not as much movie stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, no. So I said, okay, good. I want to show it to you before it gets spoiled for you. So I showed it to her, and she watched it, and she goes, oh, Spider-Man. And I was like, now let me explain to you why this is a big deal. So I kind of explained it to her, and she's like, I think it's cute that you thought that would get spoiled for me. She's like, I don't. This doesn't mean the same thing to me that it means to you.
You forget sometimes that we are in a bit of a bubble,
right?
When it comes to the movie news kind of thing.
Exactly,
But
so
it is in the world of cinema, though, especially comic book movies. It's a huge deal.
Oh, without a doubt.
To have Spider-Man finally be there, the deal that Sony and Marvel Studios have done.
Yeah, it's unprecedented.
To have it. Yeah, it's just amazing. I never thought we'd see the day, to be honest.
Right, exactly. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. The only thing I think that takes away from it for me is, and here we go, I like to share a controversial opinion every week. Well, this is my controversial opinion for the week. So I really loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was a great Peter Parker.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I really enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man. But here's the part that's controversial. I love Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I know that pretty much everybody else in the world hated that movie, but I thought it was fantastic.
Well, I didn't think it was as bad as everybody was saying.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
There was just, I felt like he could have done with some slightly better editing. and just be trimmed here and there a little bit more.
Sure. I mean, it's not that it's a perfect film, but I really enjoyed it. And then everybody came out and was like, it's the worst movie ever. And then it, it made $700 million. And they're like, it's a flop.
Yeah.
So I'm a little disappointed that Andrew Garfield, I feel like he didn't quite get a fair shake. And I don't think it's his fault. I think that maybe they sort of rebooted the franchise too soon.
Yeah. I think they were just trying to get it out as quick as they could, basically.
Yeah, and I think doing an origin story in the first one was sort of a misstep also. But I do love Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So that's my only, again, this is a minor disappointment though. I hear that Tom Holland is excellent as Spider-Man. So
all the reports seem to say he's perfect for the role.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do with it. I was less than excited with the all of the internet chatter though for the 2 seconds that he's in the trailer. How many people were already complaining about him? It was like
I always find out about people on the internet how you just see this tiny little thing and it's all like, it's dreadful, it's ruined Spider-Man, oh my god.
Right, he literally says 2 words and you're like, people are like, it's terrible, I don't like it, and you're like, that's where it's like, okay, this is where the internet needs to calm down and shut the heck up once in a while.
But I thought it was a ballsy move though, I think, to reintroduce him to the Marvel universe though in a Captain America film. I quite like that.
Yeah,
especially for a big story such as Civil War.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like it's a Captain America film, but it's really kind of like Avengers 2.5.
Yeah, apart from Thor and no Hulk.
Right. No, right. But other than, I mean, really, if you look at it's to call it a Captain America film when there's, Iron Man is clearly taking as big a part as Captain America, and then there's like 12 other Avengers.
Yeah. Although people who've seen the film have said it is actually pretty much Captain America and Bucky, the Winter Soldier. That's what it focuses on, especially near the the second half of the film.
Right.
So I quite like the sound of that. But
yeah, absolutely.
There's lots of characters in there, and that was initially I was just going, oh, this could be bit of overkill. But the story in the comics had way more villains, heroes involved, like such as the X-Men. It had huge fights and things like that. So it's never going to be as big as the comic book was. But Spider-Man had a big part to play in that. So it's going to be interesting to see how big his role is in this one.
Yes.
Also, what did you think of the look of the suit? Because it looks like it's like the classic suit from the comic books, but it's, from what we can gather from the couple of seconds, it looks like Tony Stark has built this one, because you have like the lenses on his eyes, the cool. You see a little bit of the web shooter and things like that. But so it looks, because there's been talk that you're going to see Tom Holland in the homemade version and then a Stark suit. And I assume the one we've seen is the Stark suit. Yeah,
it definitely has like kind of also the logo on the front is a little bit like square edges, not rounded, But I think it looks great. I mean, honestly, it looks like Spider-Man, which is all I care about. I don't get too worked up over whether, the minor details, if his eyes are bigger or his eyes are smaller, or the pattern on his suit is bigger or smaller,
just as long as it's Spider-Man.
Right. My only concern, honestly, is that they don't just shoehorn him in because they could, but that he actually is there for a reason. I would hate to see Spider-Man just kind of get sidelined as a gimmick.
The fact it's based on the Civil War storyline from the comics, though, it's Spider-Man had quite an important role to play throughout that. So there's lots that it should hopefully skew quite close to that, and it won't seem like that being shoehorned in.
I mean, honestly, I think I may have said this already on a previous podcast, or maybe I didn't. Maybe that was just in my head. I lose track. But when Captain America: The Winter Soldier was announced, I had never even heard of the Russo brothers, and then I watched it and I said, well, they can pretty much make any Marvel movie they want, as far as I'm concerned, because I think that's a fantastic movie.
Great film, The Winter Soldier, yeah.
They did a great job bringing, the heroes in. Robert Redford was fantastic. The whole conspiracy angle is great. I mean, they changed the Marvel universe, and so they sort of handed them the reins to the upcoming Marvel films, and I'm like, hey, listen, if they can keep doing what they did with the first one, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, and it's also, because what happened in The Winter Soldier, it made the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Gave it the kick up the arse it needed, and just made it, just lifted it up, and it's just hasn't looked back really since then.
Yeah, I half agree with you. I think the second half of season 1, right after the events of Winter Soldier, till the end of the season, with the whole Ward being a traitor thing. Spoiler alert. It was fantastic. I mean, week to week, it was one of the best shows on TV. And then
great storyline.
I watched most of the second season, and honestly, it just. I couldn't get that excited about it again. It's like they somewhere along the line, it couldn't live up to that second half of the first season. But those like 8 or 10 episodes to me were just brilliant.
Yeah, those last 3 episodes of season 1 were probably better than season 2, but I still enjoy it. Like the characters.
Right. I do too.
Looking forward to seeing what happens, what goes on.
Yeah, definitely.
One other good thing though from the Captain America Civil War trailer, another amazing thing to finally see, because it was been in the comic, was Ant-Man.
Yes.
On one of Hawkeye's arrows.
Yes.
Just slipping through the fingers of Iron Man. I just thought it's an iconic comic book scene, and it's just to see it on the big screen. It's just the fanboy within me. It's just amazing.
Yep.
It's going to be good to see Paul Rudd interacting with Robert Downey Jr. and the rest of the crew.
Right.
It's going to be good seeing what happens with him.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I'm a huge Paul Rudd fan, and I like Ant-Man very much. So I think him being in this is it's going to be a lot of fun for sure.
So what other movie news have you seen this week?
So the thing that stood out for me was that Paramount has announced that they've gone back to do reshoots on Star Trek Beyond, and that they're adding a new character.
Oh, yeah, I read this.
Which is going to be played by Shohreh Aghdashloo. I hope I said that right. If not, I apologize.
I don't know.
She's best known for appearing in the movie House of Sand and Fog, and also she had a major role on one of the early seasons of 24.
She's also in Sci-Fi's The Expanse, which is a really good sci-fi show, really good, starring Thomas Jane, and based on Leviathan Wakes by a guy I've forgotten, but it's very good, and she was very good in it.
Right.
Okay.
So she's going to be playing apparently like the president of the Federation, I believe, or something along those lines. And of course, people are worried because they think reshoots means that the movie's in trouble and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in trouble. I don't. I reserve judgment until I see it. What I find interesting is that, I'm a Star Trek fan from my childhood. I mean, I've been watching Star Trek
same here
since I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I've watched every season, every series. I've seen every episode of every series. I've seen every movie, and I love J.J. Abrams' 2 films of Star Trek.
Yeah.
I think he did a perfect job of rebooting it for a new audience, yet staying true to the spirit of it. But apparently there's a lot of diehard Trek fans out there who don't like them at all, and I didn't really realize this until more recently.
Yeah, well, I have to agree with you. I've always loved Star Trek, the original series, right up to the present day, and I love the Abrams films. I thought it was probably the only way they could sort of do it, to be honest, unless they were going to introduce a whole new cast of characters as opposed to reboot all the Kirk and everyone.
Right.
The only way they could have done it was have it, to fit in the timeline that's been established since the original series. Was you would have had to have had a whole new crew of the Enterprise.
Right, but that just wouldn't have been economically feasible.
Yeah, because people want to see they want to see Kirk, or at the very least Picard, or something like that.
Right. Plus, and if you look at the box office returns, especially the last couple of next generation movies, they, Star Trek Nemesis kind of tanked. I think that the original shows had sort of run their course, in terms of, not in terms of for fans, but I mean in terms of just general box office.
Yeah, they sort of just plateaued, and then were just.
Right, I mean, none of the Star Trek films was ever, except for First Contact, I don't think any of them even broke 100 million. Maybe, Star Trek 4 did also. But, they were never humongous blockbusters. They were always just kind of successful films.
Yeah.
So just to do another Star Trek and be like, here's the next crew of the Enterprise, I just don't think it would have,
Yeah, it needed a fresh approach to things.
Right. And so I thought that, he did a great job of making it hip and young and fun. And then he threw Leonard Nimoy in to kind of satisfy the old school fans without losing the new fans. I really loved them both. And I don't know why there are people out there who don't seem to enjoy them.
The only problem I have with those 2 films is with the second one was the whole thing of saying Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't Khan.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it just ended up going too long, and just when it was revealed in the film, it's going, it is Khan, you're meant to be going, oh my god, I didn't realise.
Right.
You're just going, well, yeah, we knew all along.
Right. And also, if you're not a fan from the old movies, that would mean nothing to you.
Yeah.
So I agree that was a misstep, but I still found it to be an enjoyable film,
Yeah.
I don't know. People don't like it. People don't like them. Some people don't like them. But so Star Trek Beyond, the Justin Lin, the Fast and Furious director, is directing it. Obviously, they're going for a bit more of an action bent, based on the teaser trailer. Yeah,
the first trailer, I need to see more, I think, though, to be fine, to see what exactly is going on.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, it's clearly right now just the teaser. It's hard to say what's going to be, what's the gist of it going to be. But, so they're doing reshoots, not the end of the world. Could be good, could be bad, but I'm still looking forward to it very much.
Because most big movies, most movies anyway, they end up having a few reshoots.
Oh yeah, it's very common, but people, the press likes to jump on it and make it seem like, oh, it's a disaster.
Well, the only thing they'll have in this new character, though, like the head of the Federation, it's not going to be quite a big role because it's just going to be a little reshoot. But in the terms of the Star Trek universe, it's a big role.
Yeah, it's something important.
Yeah, so she's going to be. I wonder whether she's going to be there to help explain matters or something like that, like as a framing device or something.
Right. My guess is that maybe they went a little too much fun and action and not enough story, so maybe they wanted to kind of flesh things out a little bit.
Yeah, it's probably going to be something like that.
So, but we'll see.
But I do like her. She's a great actress, and I love her voice.
Oh yeah,
she's a really good voice
for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other exciting news?
The other thing, Odeon Cinemas here in the UK have sent out one of their Limitless cards for me. It's a new service they've got where you pay £17.99 a month, and you can go to the cinema, well, the Odeon Cinema, as often as you like using that card. Terms and exclusions apply, but it's a pretty good way to get people to go to the cinema, and all. I can see it working well. You've got your mates. They'll be paying. You can walk in free. Yeah,
I wish I had something like that, to be honest with you, because I would definitely take advantage of that. I'm, I go to the movies as often as I can, but it seems like the kind of thing. I mean, I don't know conversion rates, but what's a typical movie ticket cost over there in pounds?
Well, if you're outside of London, it's around about between £6 to £10, depending upon you're getting the VIP seats, things like that. Or...
Right. So if you see 3 movies in a month, it's paying for itself.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. But I mean, if you're down in London, you're going to be paying more anyway.
Right.
I think some of the ones, the Odeon Leicester Square doesn't fall into the Limitless deal, which understandable. But it's a good thing, and you can find out more. It's odeon.co.uk/limitless.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I wish I had one of those for for us here in the United States. So Odeon, get on that. Make some partners maybe so you can send me one of those things that I can use as well.
Excellent, yeah. I'll get onto them.
All right, you do that, Phil.
One other thing as well, I just saw before we started recording, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill have been confirmed to voice Batman and the Joker once more in the animated adaptation of Batman the Killing Joke.
Wow.
Which is based on Alan Moore and Brian Bolland's absolutely fantastic comic book.
So usually I know the film news that you're sharing, but that is news to me. I did not know that. That is very exciting.
Well, it was literally 10 minutes before we started recording. It just came up.
That's very exciting. I actually will still maintain, probably to this day, maybe not, but when the original Batman films were out, after all 4 of them had come out, for years I would say that the best Batman movie was Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, well, all the Batman the animated series is the best portrayal of Batman so far.
Exactly. Now that the Nolan films are out, maybe Mask of the Phantasm isn't the top one anymore, but it's still one of my favorites. And so getting Conroy and Hamill back to do them, especially to adapt The Killing Joke, that's pretty amazing.
Such a good story, and just
Because
Conroy and Hamill, I think, are the definitive Batman and the Joker.
Oh, without a doubt, they are.
Yeah, and it's just... I made up, because after some of the Arkham video games, it looked like we weren't going to have them doing the voices anymore.
Right.
Mark Hamill in particular, but I'm made up they got them for this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. But, obviously they're not doing them full-time now, but it's I think it's great that for a project kind of this important, I mean, really, after The Dark Knight, the most seminal Batman story of all time is The Killing Joke. Yeah. So if you're going to get if you're going to adapt that one to a film, I think you need to have the right people for it to pull it off. So
because it's a huge story, and they've got I'm hoping they're going to get it right. There's no word on the rating, but there had been rumours it was going to be R-rated. I'm still not sure about that. I know there's some events in the story which need to be.
Yeah, but they pulled it off in the comic book, and they kind of hinted. I mean, they showed what they could show without making it R-rated, so they could definitely pull off a PG-13. But we'll see.
Oh, and the other thing, Tara Strong, she's going to be voicing Barbara Gordon.
Oh, excellent! She's fantastic.
Because she does so many different voices.
Oh yeah, she's everything.
Yeah, really good. And they've got Commissioner Gordon is the guy from Ray Wise.
Oh, you love
Twin Peaks. Yeah, I love Ray Wise. Yep. So all in all, it's shaping up to be very nice, but there's no date as to when it's going to be released, but it's a good start.
Yeah, for sure. That is exciting. Good. I'm glad you shared that. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah. Any more news in the world of film?
I think that's everything I got for right now.
Yeah, I think that's all me for now.
All right. Well, then, in that case, if you would like to hear us give an after the ending to one of your favorite movies, feel free to comment on our Facebook page. Once again, that is facebook.com/aftertheendingpodcast. And or just share any comments. If you have anything you want to say about the show, we'd love to hear it, and we might read something out on the air.
If you've got a better after the ending for the films we've discussed, then please put it in the comments, and we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, and we'll pick some good ones to let people hear, and we'll see what we'll see if maybe we need to be replaced as the podcast host. Maybe people have better ideas than we do.
Shh! Don't say that.
All right. All right. Well, that wraps us up. So until next time, I'm Mike Spring,
And I'm Phil Edwards.
And we'll see you next week
after the ending. I've got the giggles now.
Serious podcaster phase now.
Sibilance. There we go.
Right. Lemon face, lion face. Lemon face, lion face. That's one of my favorites. I don't even know why. Affleck, you were the bomb in Phantoms. All right. Anyway.
I had that with somebody the other day on Twitter. Somebody was going on, "Oh, Ben Affleck is back when it's crap. He's been rubbish and everything." And I just sent, "But he was the bomb in Phantoms." And they just went back saying, "Oh, that's true. He was the bomb."
That's awesome. I love it. And the blah blah blah.
You missed out all the shooting guns into the air and well,
I mentioned it, but I didn't want to reenact it because you did it so well last week. I didn't think I could top you. Who gets kind of seduced by the person that they're just. Let me do that again. Well, you and I are definitely on the same page tonight.
Okay.
Or we will be as soon as I get my phone working again. Good Lord. Johnny basically spends some time in Australia. He takes an extended leave of abstinence. Abstinence? No, that was that. I mean, maybe he does, but I would think if you're surfing in Australia, why would you want to do that?
Maybe it makes you surf better.
Right.
If any surfers out there would like to get in touch and let us know.
Yeah, share your thoughts on abstinence or not, as far as your performance. No, it's just getting worse and worse. All right. Facebook.com/ Of course. Never fails. Good timing.
That's perfect. That's it. That's a wrap. You can't top that.
Like what?
No, I just sort of like that. And then had a drink.
All right. All right.
Well, I'm sure if you've been anywhere near the internet, you will have seen Captain America, the Civil... I'm sure if you... Okay. Well, just on that month...
May want to do that last part again.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
After the movies.
Close. Yeah. Close.